Alright, recording this episode for the second time, actually, because the first time went too slowly, and my commentary really derailed into some places that I did not prefer for it to go. It was not something, there was nothing particularly special that you missed, that I won't repeat. Just, whatever. Wonky Circus. I have, I guess, actually a couple of stories to tell about this place. The first one is not that much of a story, but the first time that I played this game, and I got to this level, I thought the word wonky was kind of an awesome word, and so I wanted to look up what it meant. And whenever I looked in the dictionary, or possibly the thesaurus, because I was really big into reading the thesaurus at the time, so that might have been, I might have looked in the wrong place for the definition of the word wonky. But whenever I looked it up, the definition that I found was boring. Not the definition was a boring definition, though. The word meant boring. And I think it still probably does. I think that I was probably right about that, but the more common definition that people seem to like to use is, dumb or awkward or ridiculous, wonky. I think awkward is probably the most apt synonym that I can think of. So anytime anyone has used the word wonky for years until I looked up the word again, I thought that they were just using it incorrectly, because the definition that I found was boring, and nobody used it to mean boring. I was like, what are you guys thinking? You're not using this word right. But yeah, it's perfectly fine. I was the one using the word in the much less usual context. And then the other story that I have is slightly more interesting and requires a little bit more explanation. Back when I was a young bab and didn't really know how to use the internet, I think I said at one point earlier in the LP that I played this game back when I didn't really use the internet for anything game-related, which I guess is not actually true. I used it sometimes for walkthroughs, and okay, I think down here I determined that, oh crap. Well, I determined that there's another one of those crystal boss fights, but I'm not sure if I can actually avoid it this time. Maybe I can. I'm gonna see. I'm gonna hold all of my thoughts until I can find out if I can actually skip this. Because that would be excellent if I could. Let's go down here. Looks like I can. Awesome. Awesome Possum. Gungawsome, I think, is an animator. Anyway, back to my story. I did use the internet for walkthroughs sometimes, and the site that I found for walkthroughs was NeoSeeker. And because I looked at that site for walkthrough stuff a lot, because I was bad at coming up with solutions to problems that video games presented me with, I remember I had to look at a walkthrough for at least a few parts of Wind Waker, which, to be fair, I'm still not sure if the parts that I got stuck on were parts that I would have figured out today, but I don't know. Either way, I probably used walkthroughs a bit more than I should have, and so I was on NeoSeeker a lot, and I decided to make an account on the forums of NeoSeeker. Don't you dare enter the arena of the crystal monster that is crystal meth, because this game is apparently addicted to it, because it shows up all the time. I was on the site a lot. I made an account, but on the account, my username was just my real name, which was not wise, and people on the forum and also my brother pointed out that this was a dumb idea. I shouldn't be going around with my username being my real name on the internet. It seems like the etiquette for that has changed quite substantially in more recent years, because privacy seems to be less of a thing that people are concerned about. But I thought about a name, like a new username that I could use for a new account, and the username that I came up with after thinking about it for a while, and by a while it was probably like 2 hours maybe not even that long. The username that I came up with, because I liked this game and I liked this level in particular of this game, I thought of the name Wonky Circus Leader. So, I was the Wonky Circus Leader. I doubt that account still exists. It's not like I really used it for much of anything. I think I used it for like 2 days, and maybe made a few posts. And they were probably really embarrassing young posts, because this was when I was still first learning that the internet existed, practically. But, yeah. That was my, probably, first actual username for the internet. Before Johnbro or Jonochrome, I was the Wonky Circus Leader. Good name. Good debut. Except it's not really a debut. I do quite like this level. I don't know if I would still consider it my favorite or not, but I definitely like the atmosphere, and I love the music. I think I said earlier on that I don't really listen to any of the music in this game outside of actually playing it, but that is not completely true. I have definitely listened to this particular song before, outside of playing the game, because this song is just funky. It's constantly changing. I don't think the time signature is consistent through the whole theme. And also, while we're on the subject of music, it's worth pointing out that the items that we're collecting in this particular level... I keep saying particular too much. I am very particular about how I use my words, so I'd better stop saying particular. Yeah, this level has musical instruments, so it's appropriate that I was talking about music. Okay, I like the way the box bounces with this walk cycle. It's kind of good. Alright, I think I want to look at the side view for this one. Hey, it's a side-scroller now. I got a little hasty there. No, I did the exact same thing twice in a row. Twice in a row, man. Or two times in a row. 2 times in a row, man. I tried to drink water and it drips down the left side of my face. Nintendo Capri Sun references for anyone who gets them. Most of the enemies in this game do not change, but this is one of the unique enemies that only appears in one level, and I kind of like them. They're just caged monsters where you never actually get to see the monster that's in the cage. It just is the cage. I enjoy it. So I think that was that an oboe that I collected, or was it a clarinet? I must know. It was a clarinet, okay. I couldn't reference my oboe character in Riddle School. Oh, great. Even though I tried to avoid the crystal beast, it's not really much of a beast, it's just kind of like a stake in the ground. Tried to avoid it, but there was still another one in the stage, because this game just throws so many at you. Just so many. Then again, I guess it's thematically appropriate, since the Dark Jewel is the main villain of the game. I think I've tried before to sequence break up here by slamming this enemy into the ground. I don't remember if I've ever done it successfully or not. Wait a minute. Okay, I thought that I grabbed onto the ledge, but I think it was just Wario pushing against the wall. Yeah, this is the part of the stage that I'm not as fond of, because of these flame jets that you have to time out correctly when you grab onto the glue globe ball, glue gun. I remember using a glue gun in the 3D design class I think I used 3D design to describe my CG classes, but there was a 3D design class that was just building sculptures out of wire, mostly. Which was also not fun. Like, anything with 3D in the name has not been fun for me. But yeah, we used a glue gun in there. It's one of the few times I've ever touched a glue gun. Yeah, I don't know where to go from there with my train of thought. I generally like this level, I like the theme of it. I like carnival-themed levels. The Witchy World level in Banjo-Tooie is another one that I quite like. Kinda wish that there were more levels like this. I remember the carnival area in... This isn't the game, but in the episode, I think, 301 of South Park, which I think only aired officially once, and then it was brought down because... or taken down because it was too offensive. Which, like, it takes only one particular subject matter to... or... I wasn't phrasing that correctly. There's only one subject matter in South Park that can be deemed too offensive, and that's the inclusion of Muhammad as a character. But, yeah. Just... I don't know, there was a part in that episode, I don't remember if it was 300 or 301, maybe both, that was circus-y and it was creepy and I liked it. That was all I was supposed to say there. So on the subject of collectathons, I guess, because this... I'm trying to think of just more things that have happened to me lately, and one of those things would be that I've played the various collectathons from this year, and this year has been basically the revival of the collectathon genre year. Starting with Yooka-Laylee, and then there was A Hat in Time, and then there was Mario Odyssey. I played them in that order, and out of those three games, this is how I'd rank them. Number 1 would be Yooka-Laylee, number 2 would be Mario Odyssey, and number 867 would be A Hat in Time. Because that game ended up being the most disappointing game that I've ever played in my life. Not necessarily the worst, but by far the most disappointing. Like, I don't really want to talk about it that much, because it sort of makes me angry every time I think about it now, and I wrote a very long Steam review about all the reasons that I was disappointed. But it is a game that I backed on Kickstarter, even though I knew about it before the Kickstarter, and that's one of the reasons that I'm kind of sad that it turned out the way it did. Like, before it was on Kickstarter, whenever I found the game, it was just like a single area that wasn't finished. It was just like one white building and a coastline and some mafia NPCs, and that was it. There was nothing more to the game than that. And seeing the finished game, it's nothing like I was hoping it would be. I backed the game because I was really excited about it, and I was excited about what it was becoming. Eventually I spent more money on it to get the beta, which I really liked. Even though there were certain parts of the beta that I didn't like as much, I figured those parts would be kind of ironed out in the finished product. You know, the parts that were glitchier, they would be less glitchy, but all the features would still be there, all the fun exploration and all the hidden secrets and all the parts that I really thought were special about the game would still be there. Turns out they're not. Turns out that the game is... it kind of discourages exploration almost. There are lots of optional items in the game to collect, but so many of them are the same item and they don't actually contribute to your 100% game file. So there's really no reason to collect anything because it's basically all useless. Unless you just want to make sure that nothing is there on the map to satisfy your OCD or something, which is completely fair, but also annoying. I don't want that to be the only reason that I collect stuff in a video game. And it's also just not that fun to collect, generally. At least not to me. And I don't know, because what I think is so special about most collectathons is the exploration. I think variety is an important thing. I think that, I don't know what else. Just, I like the non-linear aspect of many collectathons. Some are more linear than others, but even still, I think my favorite ones are the ones that give you a lot of freedom in where you go next, even if there is still kind of a consistent linear progression, such as in Donkey Kong 64, you have to go through the levels in a certain general order, but it's not like absolutely mandatory that you do everything in a specific order. There's still a whole lot that's up to your own discretion. And A Hat in Time is not so much that way. It's a lot more linear than I expected it to be. And not even just in terms of, like, the order that you go through the missions, but also just in the level design. There's a lot of just go jump on these platforms, get to this next platform, find the next platform, and then you're at the end of the level. It's not all that free roaming, except in the first, like, couple of areas, and the second area is really easy to get lost in because it's just everything looks the freaking same. And most of the gameplay is the same. Most of the platforming in the game is just the same exact stuff over and over again, with nothing that particularly stands out. But it's presented in a slightly different way. Or not even a slightly different way. Like, the game's strong suit is its artificial charm. It's cute, it's colorful, it always finds a new way to present the same materials. Sometimes maybe you're just going through a normal-seeming stage, or sometimes you're in a, like, an area that gives the illusion of being free roaming, except actually it's not. Sometimes you've got, like, a detective story where you solve a mystery, except it's a blatantly obvious mystery, so there's not really much to solve. A lot of the missions in the game are quote-unquote stealth, even though the stealth is incredibly easy. I don't know. It really felt like a lazy game in its core design for me, and I was very disappointed by it. But enough about that. That's why I didn't like that game, but I do like Mario Odyssey. And I like Yooka-Laylee quite a lot. That would be my game of the year. And I remember looking at a number of reviews on, or not reviews, but responses to my review for A Hat in Time on Steam. A lot of people didn't trust what I was saying because I gave Yooka-Laylee a positive review, but I gave A Hat in Time a negative one. Which I can kind of understand, but at the same time, everything that I felt like A Hat in Time lacked, Yooka-Laylee has. It has a lot of variety in its gameplay, because it has lots of what people would consider gimmicks, but I don't see why gimmicks in a game are a bad thing. I think they contribute to, like, keeping the game fresh and interesting. I don't see why, like, Donkey Kong Country 3 is my favorite of the Donkey Kong Country games, and one of the reasons for that is that it's pretty much the most gimmicky of the 3 games in the Super Nintendo trilogy. Every level does something completely different. And, you know, that's one of the things that I look for in a collectathon. Yooka-Laylee is a pretty non-linear game. That's another thing that I really appreciate about it. It doesn't really try to keep you from doing things. I don't know what the best way to say that is, but there's a lot of games where it seems like they're specifically designed so that there is no way to sequence break them, or there is no way that you can possibly cheese your way through the game. But Yooka-Laylee is not that way. It's unprofessional in its design, but that's okay because there's a lot of freedom with it, I guess. My word choice is not always great. I haven't said a word about this boss fight. Not that there's much to say about it. It's called Clown Around, and it's a round clown. But I do want to talk about the scenery, actually, because this background is nuts. I was just gonna say... It was reminding me of something. It reminds me of... Okay, one of the few things that I liked about my 3D texturing, rendering, lighting class is, we had these presentations that we had to do on different 3D animators. I chose John Lasseter because he was the first name that came to my mind, but I think we were all supposed to choose more obscure ones than that, so I was kind of feeling embarrassed when everyone else picked someone that nobody had ever heard of, and I picked this guy that everyone knows about. Anyway, there was someone who picked... I don't remember his name. A 3D animator who has done a number of interesting things for the 3D animation art form, I guess, and he made a short that was nominated for an Oscar, and one of his shorts to showcase the abilities of an early version of Autodesk Maya was something called... What is it called? I should know this. Bingo. Bingo the Clowno. Or maybe just Bingo the Clown. One of those. It is kind of an excellent animation. I think it is quite humorous. And it was presented, or at least part of it was shown in class. I very much enjoyed it. So for anyone who has not seen Bingo the Clowno, look that up and watch it. The clown around background reminds me of that. This is another really odd... I mean, all the boss fights are weird. But this one's particularly... There we go with the word particular again. This one is especially detailed and realistic looking, somehow. I remember this one from... I don't know if it was the back of the box or from a trailer. But... this was the first boss that I ever got a look at. And it's one that I don't really like fighting, mostly because if you're standing in the wrong place, you get hurt. Which I guess is something that you could say for any boss fight, but in this case, it doesn't feel like there are certain locations that you should be able to get hurt in whenever you're standing there, but just right here in this corner, you get hit. Anyway, step out of the way of the fire. Oh, there's more fire. So much fire. You're a fish. You shouldn't... Well, they're kind of fish. You shouldn't be blowing fire if you're, like, fish snakes. Oh, and apparently that was the end of the boss fight. I didn't even realize. I think I was probably about done with my Collectathon rant. Don't know if there was anything else that I was really going to say with that. Just, I really like Yooka-Laylee. Mario Odyssey, I generally think it's okay, and there are certain levels that I really like. I think the Metro Kingdom is great, and I think the Luncheon Kingdom is great. Even though it seems like the Luncheon Kingdom is one of the ones that people are more mixed on, it's definitely one of my favorites. And, of course, the very last main stage, the one that is Nostalgia Pumped. Nostalgia Pumped! Okay, now I have to say one more thing before this video is over. I was visiting my brother the other day, and I saw a jar of pumpkin butter on the table, but I was looking at it from the side, and all I saw was pump butt. So that was pretty good. So, see you next time.